And joining me today on the podcast is Phil Taylor. Phil is a friend, colleague of mine from Luxembourg, whose speciality is marketing, both website and LinkedIn, social media. He runs a company called Morpheus Marketing. So, Phil, welcome to the call.
Thank you very much, David.
It's I think spring has finally arrived in Luxembourg, so it's been a beautiful day today. And Phil, tell us about yourself. People on the call may not have know you or heard too much about you. Tell us a bit about Phil Taylor.
Well, my initial background was in law. I didn't like that very much, so after 4 years, I joined the Royal Air Force as an administration officer and travelled around the UK doing administration for the Royal Air Force until 1995 when I moved to Germany. It was after that posting to Germany that I came to Luxembourg. And I came here because I got married, and my now wife was living and working in Luxembourg at the time, and it made sense for me to come here. I worked in financial services for a number of years, primarily in information technology and then in product management before. I think the best way of describing it is a disagreement with the marketing department.
Artistic differences.
Well, they weren't doing what it said on the tin, which was marketing my product.
Right.
And when I went to look for somebody to do the marketing for me, I discovered that the best person to do it was probably me. And that started my transition into internet marketing. And that was about 13, 14 years ago. And since then, I've been doing internet marketing for small, medium-sized businesses, primarily in website development, because Facebook was very young in those days. LinkedIn was also very young. At that time, the focus was really on building your internet presence, as in building a website, putting pages on it. But my initial thoughts on the website were that it was all about the content. And it seems to be that the rest of the world is now catching up with my initial thought.
Good. Okay. And so I know you work with a number of sort of local clients, international clients as well, all over. And based on your experience, as you say, of marketing, what is the biggest frustration that people face with their marketing in your experience?
The biggest frustration is not knowing what to do. I think. Certainly when businesses and business people are starting out, they have a look and see what is out there, and then they struggle with trying to put it together for themselves. And this is one of the big things when you go to small businesses and speak to business people, is they're all over the place because they can't see what they need to be doing. And one of the things that I do and have done is try to clarify that for small business people, so that they're very clear on what they need to be doing in order to get people to their business.
And so when you sit with a client and they just say they haven't got that sort of marketing experience, where do you start? What's your first initial sort of conversation with them? How do you kick it off so you can get a picture and really help them?
Well, it's normally a discussion to try and eke out what they think they want, and to discover what their business is about and discover how they want to market that business, because it's not all online, if you like. They need to come up with a marketing strategy. And so we would talk through a number of different things with them, from their website to using social media to doing offline marketing as well, such as articles in magazines and so on. But what we're looking to do is to find out how much they know and how much they need to know in order to get things done. From the strategy, we then go into the planning phase, and really planning is something that small businesses, and particularly sole traders, if you like, tend not to do because it's time consuming.
Sure.
And it's not their business either. Their business is doing whatever they're doing, and they should really, if they're going to do their own marketing, they need to be clear and set aside time to do it. Most business people will tell me, oh yes, I will do it. but normally after a week or two, they stop doing it because it's not high enough up their priority list.
Well, I guess the sort of the clients and the day job if it takes over. But is that something that you sort of take off their to-do list, if you like? You sort of withdraw. You can do that, either content generation and do the marketing on their behalf effectively.
Yes,
Yeah.
is short answer to that one. We do everything from website development to content planning and marketing. We create blog posts, we create LinkedIn articles, we create updates for social media, and we also create articles that would be placed in magazines and on magazine news websites.
Yeah. Okay.
So that there's a lot to it. We don't only create the plan, we implement the plan and we run the plan for them.
I know one of the interesting conversation talking about marketing, which is to a lot of us, to a lot of people out there as well, it's a bit of sort of dark art. And I remember having talking to this guy who came to one of our events. I said, well, how much do you spend on marketing every month? And he wasn't really sure exactly how much it was. But the next question was, I said, well, what do you get back from that? When you put, I don't know, €1,000 into it, what do you get back? And that he had absolutely no idea. Do you find that the people they throw stuff at marketing but don't really know what they get back from it as well?
Yes, the return on investment is something that particularly small businesses are not clear about. They're not clear about how much they should be investing in their marketing, and they don't know what sort of a return they should be getting from it. They should be investing roughly 10% of their sales revenue into marketing.
Right. Okay.
And a lot of small businesses are scared to actually tell me what that 10% amounts to in cash terms, because they think I'm going to run off and spend it all. I'm not going to run off and spend it all, and I'm certainly not going to spend it all on stuff.
Sure.
We will be doing marketing for them, but we will lay out clearly in advance what we're doing and what sort of return they should expect from their marketing investment.
Okay.
Now, just to be clear, as a rule of thumb, for every euro that you spend on marketing, you should be getting roughly 49.50 euros back in sales revenue.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So
that's a pretty good return. If you do that every day at a bank, you'd do it all the time, wouldn't you?
Oh yes. And that's not a number that I've made up. That's an industry number that comes back to us from the results that other people have seen from effective marketing. If you don't do effective marketing, you won't get that return.
Sure.
And the other thing that business people don't understand is that certainly online marketing it's a slow burner. It's going to take a while to build up the numbers. What small businesses tend to do if they're doing it on their own is they'll do something for a couple of weeks. If it doesn't work, they'll give it up.
Yeah.
They shouldn't give it up. They need to keep going over a period of time. And for a marketing effort to begin to be successful, it should be bringing results after about 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And really effective. Assuming that there's a consistency over a period of time, it will begin to be really effective after about 7 or 8 months. And that's when you start to see the bigger numbers coming in.
So if I'm looking at, again, this is something just an observational question for me, I guess, is looking at marketing. There's a website and there's the old traditional, I suppose, somewhat the SEO and pay-per-click and AdWords, that sort of thing. I've then got all the social media sites to look at. I've got other sponsored things. Where do we start? Is this something, if I said to you, look, all this stuff, do I do all of it? Do I do some of it? Or is it just cherry pick and do something that just works for my industry?
To begin with, I'd do a bit of cherry picking
if
you're starting from scratch, and we'd start with your website. To be honest, because everything that you're doing on social media will be driving people to your business, probably via your website. So your website needs to be built first, because when you start putting stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, it will have a link back to your website. Because that is where you have control over how you do business with people. So it will be bringing people to your website for them to either to buy something or to sign up for your newsletter or to read content that you have on your website, which will then bring them physically to your business.
Right. Okay. Okay. So it still starts with web. That is a very fundamental start point.
It is, yes. It's at the center of your own business web, if you like,
sure.
online.
Okay.
Because after that, you're then looking to publish content on social media, which will begin to drive drive people to your website, and also it will improve your SEO efforts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now we move on to search engines. Search engines are something which are around. The obvious ones, which people know, are Google and Bing.
Yeah.
But the other search engines are Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and so on. Because people search on social media for goods and services. They ask for recommendations on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So these are places where people will be looking for the businesses that are marketing.
Right.
Now, one thing that Google does, Google is the front runner in search engines very much. They look to see how much activity you are producing and what sort of results that activity has.
Mm-hmm.
So if as a business you publish on LinkedIn or Facebook and you get responses to what you publish, as in people comment on it or share it, Google keeps an eye on that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're being successful in that, in getting comments and shares, then Google will look at your website pages and bring them up the rankings for the keywords that you have.
Okay.
So it does come down to the more content that you publish, as long as it's interesting for people to look at and to read or to watch and listen to, then the more chance you have of being on the pages of Google.
Yes, being found and being spotted. And this is part of I think the frustration for many people, and I sort of share it with them to a certain extent, is that it seems to be we have to do blogs and videos and content and tweets and Snapchat and Instagram and all this. It's just such a broad subject that it can sort of people lose interest, lose the will to live to a certain extent. But what you're saying is it can be done in a reasonably systemized, structured approach and simplified to a degree as well.
It can, yes, it can. You can. One of the things that you do as part of your strategy and planning is to choose which channels you're going to use to do your marketing on. Mm-hmm. You don't have to use every single social network out there. Mm-hmm. You can decide, for example, that you're only going to use Facebook, or you're only going to use LinkedIn, or you're only going to use Instagram. Or you can use a combination of these depending on the type of content that you want to publish. More and more of the social networks are getting into video. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn have just launched their LinkedIn Live video streaming service.
Yes.
And because it was only launched last week, it is very new. And so it will take a while before people get used to using LinkedIn Live. Mm-hmm. But they've always had embedded video, and they have in the past allowed you to embed video from YouTube and from Vimeo. Mm-hmm. Most platforms now like you to have what they call native video, that is video on their platform.
Yes.
Simply because they don't like you leaving their platform to go off and watch a video.
Sure. And talking, you mentioned there sort of LinkedIn seems to be coming to the fore now. I'm on LinkedIn. I know you're very active on LinkedIn. It's your sort of specialist area. But what are your thoughts on LinkedIn? Is it a critical platform for business people to be on? And if it is, well, how do they get good at it? What sort of basic principles are there around LinkedIn now?
My view has always been that LinkedIn is probably the most underused business networking platform around. Mm-hmm. And it's mainly because people, particularly people who are setting out in business, don't know how to use LinkedIn to best effect. Mm-hmm. I've seen even quite large organizations, the top end of the medium-sized enterprises, if you like, use a profile for their company rather than a company page.
Right.
and
Yes. Okay.
which is an indication that they're not quite sure of how to use the platform.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn has unfortunately become dominated by recruitment and sales.
Mm-hmm.
So recruiters and sales teams are very good at using LinkedIn to find people that they are looking for.
Sure.
But everybody else is not quite sure what they're supposed to be doing on LinkedIn.
Right. I think the thing is, it is such a fast-moving, site. And what do we put up there? Do we put a post? Do we put an article? Do we put a video? Do we connect with people? Do we share? And it is that sort of strategy, or just having a decent page with a a headshot photograph on there. Is there what are the common mistakes, as you say, maybe a company putting up a profile page? What sort of common mistakes are people making, or what should they avoid on LinkedIn in your experience?
On LinkedIn specifically, they should avoid using comedy.
Right.
By that, what I mean is that their profile image should be a head and shoulders shot, preferably taken professionally, so that it shows them as a professional person.
And taken this decade as well, in my experience, for some people.
That, taken within the last year or two, yes.
Yes.
The other mistake that people forget or make is that they forget about their banner image.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for an individual, the banner image can be anything you like, but for business people, you might want to use it to advertise your business,
mm-hmm.
Or advertise the organization that you work for.
Okay.
Alternatively, a general interest image works just as well, but again, avoid comedy, because it's not what people are on LinkedIn for.
Sure. Okay.
You can use humor if you're good at, if it is a humorous story that you're telling.
Yeah.
Because what you do on your own profile, it needs to be you, albeit in a work environment.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and this is something that I've signed up for LinkedIn Premium, I think it is, and I keep it going. I've got no idea what the difference is. Is Premium somewhere that people should be going as well? What are the benefits of Premium? I know I pay for it, but I don't know what the details are. What are the benefits of Premium?
Premium is ideally for people who are working LinkedIn and not using it passively. So if you're actively looking for people on LinkedIn on a regular basis, or you need to contact people more often via LinkedIn than you would normally, then Premium is for you.
Right.
Because it increases the number of what LinkedIn call in-mails that you're allowed to have. I can't remember how many the free version gives you, but I do know it's not many.
Mm-hmm.
With the paid version, the premium version, you do get a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And this allows you to send messages to people who are not your direct connections on LinkedIn.
Right. Okay.
And it also means that you can, as a premium member, you can look at I think it's your third degree connections.
Yes.
That is connections of connections of connections.
Yeah.
Whereas with the free one, you can only see, I think it's your first degree connections. You can't see second degree and beyond.
Okay, so it's a ticket for usability, really. Is that what the premium does?
Essentially, yes.
Right. Okay.
Again, I can't remember because it was such a long time ago that I was on the free only. But I'm not sure about setting up a company pages from a free account.
Right. Okay. Okay. So there are some benefits. That's the main thing. It's just for my personal reassurance, as much as anything else. To be fair, but just check it. We've been signed up for quite a few years now, but still, okay. All right.
Yep.
So LinkedIn useful, and the whole social media area. I keep seeing posts on LinkedIn that start with, this is LinkedIn, not Facebook, for example. It's not a dating site. I know Lynn, my wife, she gets lots of people offering to get married to her and this sort of thing through LinkedIn, which is a bit strange, but still. But the rules of social media, because it's new in a lot of ways for people. What are the basic rules? I mean, LinkedIn or Facebook or otherwise, but what sort of things should we be really careful of in terms of marketing onto social media?
I've my basic rules for social media, in fact, for anything on online marketing, is first of all, plan ahead. You really need to plan ahead to make sure that you're not wasting time on social media. Once you've planned ahead, it leads you into being consistent across all areas of your online marketing. So everything from your website to the stories that you're telling on social media to your email marketing campaigns, they all have a consistent look and feel and tell a consistent story over time. From a business point of view, be professional.
Yes.
Even if you are on the likes of Facebook and posting on Facebook, you still need to be give a professional air about your business, because nobody likes doing business with cowboys. And those are the two basic rules that I would use that I use when I'm on social media, and also for my own marketing.
Yeah, I think it's something I think I've learned. I see, I'm sure you see it as well, where we've had, in our business, we've had a couple of inquiries where people have contacted us through LinkedIn or something like that. And when I speak with them, the comments that we get is that, well, we already know you. We've seen your videos, your posts, your content. We know how your business runs and where you go. We've seen pictures of your dog and all that sort of thing. It builds that relationship, if that's the right thing, before they pick up the phone. And is that something we should be aiming for, to sort of put it all out there so people can get to know us before they pick up the phone? Is that one of the key principles as well?
Yes, it is. People do business with people. They don't do business with companies or with robots. You need to display a little bit of your personality, as I've said before, because then people will get to know you, as you've discovered. The best way of doing that is using what I call short form video. Short form video comes in two types. One is the animated video with text, and the other one is a short, what I call, again, a piece to camera, telling a story. The short form video for me is less than 2 minutes. One of the discussions that I've been having on Facebook, I think it is, with Social Media Examiner people is, do people watch video on LinkedIn? And what's coming out of it is, somebody posted, oh, people read video on LinkedIn, and they couldn't understand why. So I had to explain to them that sometimes when you're looking at your LinkedIn feed, you might be doing something else at the same time. I'll be polite in this and say, if you take a situation where you're at home watching TV with your family and everybody else likes the program that's on and you don't, so you start looking at your LinkedIn feed, you don't want to start playing noise whilst the rest of the family are watching TV, so you're more likely to read captions. So top tip is to try and make sure that your videos are captioned all the time.
Right. Okay. Good. And I think as well, again, hence, I mean, it's a bit QED. I've heard, or I've been told, or I've seen that podcasting is back and it's growing again. A lot of people jumping onto the podcasting bandwagon, if that's the right term. But having an audio such as this, for example, which is brilliant, but people can listen to it on the train or in the car if they want to, I suppose. Is that something as well? It seems to be morphing through from video to, say, video with text. And podcasting, is that something that people should be considering as well?
Yes, podcasting is coming back. It seems to have gone almost full circle, because the thing that came after text and still pictures was audio, mainly because the equipment required you needed to do a video was expensive, and not designed for lay people to use. And so then videos started to become more and more accessible, to the extent that people were doing a lot of selfie videos.
Yes.
Which I remember one last year, there was a CEO of a company doing a selfie video from the Davos conference. It was all going very well for him until the day that Donald Trump turned up, and you couldn't hear him because of the helicopters overhead.
I would think that Donald Trump turning up would be enough of a worry rather than the helicopter still. But yeah, okay, point taken. Yeah, okay, good.
But
it seems to be going sort of content. I know you do a lot of work on this, and I do, and I see it as well. But putting content, a video story, 2 minutes, or an audio. This sounds like a lot of work for people, and unsurprisingly, as you say, not a lot of people don't do it. But again, this is something where I'm assuming you could say to them, "Look, you'll get this stuff done for them with their plan, their style. You can take this off them and put it into place for them, can you?"
Right up to the point where we start recording.
Yes,
because we can record it for them using somebody else, but it's better if it's them that are doing the recording.
Sure.
Which leads into another aspect of marketing that people are often fearful of, and that is being in front of the camera and being out there in front of everything, and that way they dry up. And when the camera starts to roll, nothing happens.
Yeah, because the cameras can be scary things for people to talk into, and maybe that's why podcasting is becoming more popular. Because as you and I are doing, we're speaking onto just a microphone to a screen. There's no camera rolling. Maybe it's a more gentle way of getting content out there, because cameras can be, as I say, quite scary things to talk to.
Very true. The other thing about audio is that when you do start recording, or you're halfway through recording, is you suddenly realize all the noisy things that you forgot to switch off.
Yes, like the dog.
Like the dog, the mobile phone,
yes,
people closing doors and so on.
Yeah, quite right.
But talking into a microphone is something that is not as scary as talking to a camera.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And you can.
So sort of overall, I mean, you see people entering or starting their marketing journey. What are 2 or 3 tips, top tips, if you like, from you? What could people or should people do in principle? What are the top 3 things that you think people should do, apart from phone you? That's number 4, perhaps. But what should they really do to get their marketing back on track? And what are the top 3 things they should get on with?
The first thing they should do is plan ahead. To have a planning session.
Yeah.
I know they probably think it might be a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time. I suggest that they do that not on their own, because if you do it on your own, you don't have any new ideas coming in. I would suggest that the planning session should be 3 or 4 people to help put together the long-term plan for marketing.
Yeah.
And the plan should include or should be for growth. So when you start out doing 1 or 2 blog posts a month, or 1 or 2 videos a month, you should plan to increase the pace over time. So because you will, by planning ahead, a lot of the content will be created ahead of time, and so you'll have a lot more opportunity to then refine it and get it right before you publish it.
Okay.
The other top tip I would have for them is to get the right people. Because if you're with the wrong people, you will get the wrong plan and the wrong content.
Right. Yes. Yes. Okay.
And then,
what are your thoughts on people putting up, sort of personal stories? I mean, for example, there's a quite reason for this question. I put a post up. It was Valentine's Day last week, and I remembered it, which is always a good start. Lynn and I went out for dinner. I put a photograph up, and I said, my operations director is taking me out for dinner, and put a photograph of us walking into the restaurant. And 90% of the feedback, or 99% of the feedback, was great. But somebody came back and put a comment. It was something like, well, not that this is LinkedIn, not Facebook, but this is sort of unprofessional. I didn't think it was. I mean, I just deleted it and whatever. But is that sort of thing okay in your view, or have I done something wrong there?
I personally, I don't think you've done something wrong. One of the things that I try and get businesses to do is to showcase their staff, their customer stories, even their supplier stories.
Yes. Okay.
To put some form of personality into their marketing message.
Yes.
And if you see with even the biggest companies that are classed as being very good at marketing, they always try and put some form of personality into their marketing. And that is something that I would encourage people to do, particularly the small business people, because the business is about them.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. A big thing is, I guess it goes back almost full circle to something you said a little bit earlier on, is that people buy from people. It's not a company purchase, and very rarely is it companies buying from companies. It's some person buying from another person. It's just revealing a bit more about them, perhaps.
Yes, and it's normally, if you go back to the days before the internet, if you can remember that far back.
I'm much too young for that, Phil.
People used to pick up the phone and speak to people and build a physical network.
Yes.
And because we're now an online world, a lot of that network is online, and it's a good idea to work that network in the same way as you would offline. So it is about producing if you like, a marketing message, a storyline to follow, and to get it out there in front of people who are likely to buy from you.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember back, my son said to me, who's now 26, he said, "Yeah, what was it like before the internet?" And I thought, what a silly question. But it's a very good question, actually, because pre the internet, we used to have fax on thermal rolls and that sort of thing, and telex back in the old days. But it still works. And I think, Jane, I think there's still a place for telephone. There's a place for meeting up for a coffee, and we shouldn't ignore those old or traditional, maybe not fax marketing, but those old traditional methods of building that relationship, but also don't use social media as an excuse not to go and have a coffee, have a conversation as well, perhaps.
There is, yes. The thing about social media is it can be a terrible waste of time.
Exactly.
if you don't have your aims and goals set out before you start, you will find yourself wasting a lot of time on social media.
Yes.
There must be a purpose to what you're doing, even if that purpose is to get somebody to contact you so that you can then arrange to go for a coffee or a lunch or whatever, to have a chat about what they want to do, or for them to actually buy from you. If you're on there aimlessly, then you will waste a lot of time, and you won't notice the clock ticking by.
Absolutely. I've also learned a very important lesson, that if I check LinkedIn on my smartphone whilst having dinner with Lynn, I get stabbed with a fork. So I've learned now not to check LinkedIn or anything whilst eating at the family table. I have the scars to prove it, and it's a very good rule as well, to be fair.
Yes, one of the things about your daily plan more than anything else is to have set times that you will be active on social networks.
Yes.
And that way you don't then take up your entire day doing next to nothing.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I do is that whilst breakfast for the families getting together, that's one of the times where I have a look at social media, and perhaps when I post other people's content.
Okay.
That's first in the morning. Another time that I tend to go on to social media is either just before or just after lunchtime, and again at the end of the working day.
Yeah.
So these are times when you've got to a stage whereby you think it's too late or too early to start a particular activity. I've got a few minutes, I'll have a look. It's remembering to take the time out to do it, but you always need to be careful that you don't overrun. There is a temptation once you start responding to posts and putting up new posts, is that you just keep going.
Sure.
Sometimes it can be addictive for you.
Yes. Okay, good stuff, good rules. And again, I think it is having that time allocation to do it, and also, as you say, when not to do it as well. So, Phil, that has been a pleasure. Thank you for your tips and ideas. I've learned something new as well, so hopefully those listening in have learned something new as well. So, people listening to this conversation, and they want to contact Phil Taylor at Morpheus Marketing. Easiest way of contacting you, Phil? What's the best way of people getting through to you?
The easiest and quickest way to contact me is probably by phone. So you'll need my phone number, which is Luxembourg. That's 00352, and then 621 173 272.
Excellent.
That's a mobile number, so I'm usually next to my phone all the time, except perhaps when I'm in the bathroom.
That's too much information, but thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. That's good.
You can also visit my website, which is morpheusmarketing.eu.
Yep.
Or you can find me on LinkedIn.
And is it Phil Taylor or Philip Taylor, or
if you just search for Phil Taylor, I should come up alongside Phil the Power Taylor.
Excellent.
Who's a world professional darts champion.
Slightly confusing, but there you go. Good. Good. All right. So, Phil, look, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. For those listening in, this will be obviously onto YouTube and on our channel. More to come. Please contact Phil and say hello. Get in touch with me if you'd like to. And I'll look out for more podcasts coming through. So, Phil, for now, thanks ever so much. Have a great evening, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, David. More pings from my computer.
I can delete it out. It's okay. The 50,000 people listening, they won't hear it. You're fine.
Good. Thank you.
Speak to you soon, and bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.